They were the legends behind the legends. Randy Meisner, the quiet soul with a voice that soared into the stratosphere, and Joe Walsh, the wild guitar genius who brought chaos and brilliance in equal measure. But behind the platinum records and sold-out tours, addiction, betrayal, grief, and a silence that lasted for decades. Now new revelations from Joe Walsh are turning heads and reopening wounds. What really happened inside the Eagles? And why was the voice behind their first million-selling hit quietly written out of history? Randy Meisner and Joe Walsh, the Eagles' hidden truth. Coming up next, what do you think? Did the Eagles betray Randy Meisner, or was it simply the cost of fame? Let's come to dive. Introduction. They were once the names that reshaped rock history. Randy Meisner and Joe Walsh, founding members of the Eagles. But behind the bright stage lights and platinum albums lies a darker story. Randy Meisner, the soft-spoken bass player with a soaring falsetto, helped define the Eagles' early sound. Joe Walsh, the flamboyant guitar virtuoso, brought the band its hard rock edge. Now, as Meisner's legacy is revisited, whispers of what really happened behind the scenes have finally surfaced. In this documentary-style special, we explore the lives of these two rock legends, the eagle they both flew under, and the untold truth that links them. Randy Meisner. From Nebraska farm to eagle narrator, Randall Herman Meisner was born on March 8, 1946, in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, into a family of German-Russian farmers. His childhood was simple: corn, beans, alfalfa, and sugar beets on the family farm. But there was always music at home. Meisner's mother sang and his grandfather played violin. At age 10, seeing Elvis Presley on The Ed Sullivan Show changed his life. He went home and picked up a guitar. Soon, he switched to bass, inspired by Motown R&B grooves. I loved R&B and the bass players on the Motown stuff were great. They really inspired me, he recalled. Randy Meisner was a very gentle soul, a quiet and friendly guy. No aggressive vibe at all. Very sweet. He was so there and open. In high school, Meisner formed a local rock band, the Drive-In Dynamics. They scraped together gigs at school dances and small halls. In 1965, they self-recorded an EP, including the single So Fine, pressed in a run of just 500 copies. Meisner described these years as hard scrabble, selling newspapers on Los Angeles street corners to earn $5 a day, sleeping in cheap apartments, and performing where he could. In late 1966, he joined a band called The Poor, managed by the same team as Buffalo Springfield. The Poor released a few singles, but success was fleeting, breaking into the industry, Poco and beyond. Meisner's first big break came in May 1968, when he answered an ad to audition for Poco, a new country rock band formed by ex-Buffalo Springfield members. He got the gig and played on Poco's debut album, Picking Up the Pieces. But conflict arose immediately. The producers Richie Furay and Jim Messina excluded Meisner from mixing sessions and, insultingly, photoshopped his image off the album cover and replaced it with a dog. Hurt and angry, Meisner quit Poco just before the record's release. Imagine laying down tracks for a band's first album, only to be pushed aside and literally erased from the artwork. It was a slap to a young musician who had believed this was his shot at the big time. Undeterred, Meisner spent 1969 playing bass for Rick Nelson's Stone Canyon Band. He co-wrote songs and even co-produced a live album, In Concert at the Troubadour, 1969. But despite these gigs, Meisner still struggled to make ends meet. He returned to Nebraska in 1970, working by day at a John Deere dealer while gigging at night with a local band called Gold Rush. Enter the Eagles. Everything changed in 1971. Back in Los Angeles, Meisner was hired as a session musician for Linda Ronstadt. There he... Enter the Eagles. Everything changed in 1971. Back in Los Angeles, Meisner was hired as a session musician for Linda Ronstadt. There he teamed up with Don Henley, Glenn Frey, and Bernie Leadon, and together they decided to form their own band. In September 1971, Randy Meisner became a founding member of the Eagles. The group signed with David Geffen's Asylum Records and soon released their debut album in 1972. Meisner's role was mostly bassist and harmony singer, but he shone when given the spotlight. On each of the Eagles' first 5 albums, Randy wrote, co-wrote, or sang lead on key tracks. Most famously, he wrote and sang their breakthrough hit, co-written with Henley and Frey. Take It to the Limit became the Eagles' first million-selling single. Its soaring chorus, up to Randy's remarkable high falsetto, became the band's signature live encore for years. All alone at the end of the evening, and the bright lights have faded to blue. Even after Randy's tense departure, which we'll get to shortly, Take It to the Limit remained an Eagles classic. In 2000, Randy joked on the Poco reunion tour. Take It to the Limit still paid the rent. Fellow musician friends highlight Randy's influence. Poco's Rusty Young noted in 2000 that, "I don't think Poco or the Eagles were the same without Randy." Songwriter J.D. Sutter praised Meisner's high-range vocals and melodic bass style as a key part of the country rock sound. Don Felder, who joined the Eagles later, remembered, "He was a wonderful Midwestern guy, a loving soul. Randy's sole purpose in life was to have a few drinks, roll a few joints, and make everybody laugh." Interview. Don Henley, Eagles. Randy had this unbelievable high tenor. Singing "Take It to the Limit" live, he was always stretching those notes. The rest of us in the Eagles were proud of him. Paraphrased. Interview. Henry Diltz, photographer. There were few occasions when I saw him unhappy. He hated it when attention was focused on him, but he always put a bright face on things. The touring years, success and struggle. By 1975, the Eagles were skyrocketing. Their album One of These Nights featured multiple hits and sold millions. Meisner sang lead on Take It to the Limit, becoming an idol to thousands each night. But life on the road took its toll. By late 1976, during the grueling tour for the Hotel California album, Randy's health was failing. He'd developed stomach ulcers and chronic fevers from constant travel. He was shy and uncomfortable at center stage, as Don Felder observed. He hated it when the attention was on him or his playing. The band's set lists still put Take It to the Limit as the closing encore, but Randy dreaded having to hit those soaring notes night after night. His voice began to crack, he grew fatigued. One night in Knoxville, Tennessee, 1977, fed up with illness and exhaustion, Meisner left the stage before the final encore. Backstage, Glenn Frey erupted in anger. Witnesses reported a heated confrontation. Frey shouted, "You only have one job to do and you can't even manage that." The argument turned physical when Meisner, unusually, threw a punch. This was a breaking point. Interview. Randy Meisner, 1977. I was always kind of shy. They wanted me to stand in the middle of the stage to sing Take It to the Limit, but I liked to be out of the spotlight. Backstage, the Eagles fractured. After Knoxville, Randy felt suddenly isolated. "I really felt like I was a member of the group, not just a part of it," he later reflected. By the tour's end in September 1977, Meisner quietly left the band to return home to Nebraska, citing exhaustion. Timothy B. Schmidt, coincidentally the bassist who had replaced Meisner in Poco, was brought in as his replacement. Aftermath. Solo career and personal struggles. After the Eagles split in 1980, Randy Meisner tried to rebuild his career. He released solo albums in 1978 and 1980. One track, Hearts on Fire, became a modest hit in 1981, peaking at #19 on the charts. But the success was short-lived. Critics found Meisner's solo work uneven, and he never regained the stardom of his Eagles days. In the 1980s and 90s, Randy drifted through various projects. He joined country-inflected supergroup Black Tie, toured with Bing Crosby's backing band World Classic Rockers, and led his own bands. The business was tough. Packed arenas with tens of thousands of fans were now small clubs of a few hundred. Meisner admitted frankly, "I love music, but I am no longer at the center of it." Personal life also brought turmoil. Meisner had married his high school sweetheart Jennifer Barton in 1963. They had 3 children together, Dana and twins Heather and Eric. But the strain of fame, and Randy's long absences touring, took a toll. The couple divorced in 1981 after 18 years of marriage. The breakup left Randy estranged from his children. In 1996, Randy married Lana Ray Graham, who had been his assistant. At first, it seemed a happy turn, but friends later said the marriage was troubled. Lana complained Randy drank excessively. Randy felt Lana was taking financial control. Court filings from later years paint a grim picture. Amid Ronald's health declines, his wife locked their guns away, spent large sums on renovations and personal luxuries, and isolated him from his family. In April 2015, friends of Randy filed for a conservatorship. Their court petition described Meisner as struggling with bipolar disorder, traumatic brain injury, and substance abuse, and claimed he had threatened suicide by putting a gun in his mouth. Meisner himself acknowledged he was barely able to accept the sudden and tragic loss of his loving wife after the next year's events. Tragedy strikes. On March 6, 2016, tragedy struck. Officers had been called to the Meisner home in Studio City twice that day. Around 5:30 p.m., neighbors reported a domestic dispute involving an intoxicated man. A few hours later, police left, and at 7:00 p.m., came back after a shot was heard. They found Lana Meisner dead of a gunshot wound in the closet of their home. The official report was shocking. Lana Ray Meisner had been moving a rifle in a case when another item shifted and hit the trigger, firing the gun and fatally wounding her. It was ruled an accident. Randy Meisner, found upstairs, was cooperative. Surveillance confirmed Randy was not near the weapon when it went off. Nevertheless, tabloid rumors swirled. A Huffington Post piece and later Rolling Stone articles recounted the day's events. Police had taken a domestic violence report earlier, and Lana's death was officially accidental discharge. Randy was placed on a psychiatric hold after allegedly expressing suicidal thoughts. The emotional toll was immense. Friends described Randy as barely holding on. Within days, Meisner himself petitioned the court for a 24-hour conservatorship, seeking help with his own care and assets. On April 1, 2016, CBS News published the full story. Randy's longtime friend Jim Newton had already filed papers saying Meisner was gravely disabled by mental illness and addiction, had threatened to harm himself with a weapon, and needed protection. Newton argued Meisner had even threatened rehab staff with an AK-47 in 2012, and often expressed despair. Within weeks, a temporary conservator was appointed to manage Randy's health and estate. After Lana's death, Randy withdrew from public life. He stayed in the Studio City house, caring for his chihuahua and tending a garden of tomatoes. He granted almost no media interviews. In one rare 2016 conversation with Rolling Stone, Randy simply said, "I've done everything I could. Now I just want peace." His health decline. Aftermath. Joe Walsh joins the Eagles. And in late 1975, while the Eagles were preparing their fourth album, One of These Nights was already out. Their guitarist Bernie Leadon quit the band. Producer Bill Shimchick suggested they recruit Joe Walsh to replace him. Henley and Frey phoned Walsh, who immediately accepted. When the Eagles asked Joe to join, he jumped at the chance, recalls Walsh's Kent State bio. Joe's entry into the Eagles instantly changed their sound. He brought a harder rock edge to their country rock harmonies. The first Eagles album with Walsh was the legendary Hotel California, 1976. With Joe aboard, the Eagles surged to a new level of success. Hotel California sold over 50 million copies worldwide, and its title track won a Grammy for Record of the Year. Walsh also added his own songs to the Eagles' concerts. Classics like Rocky Mountain Way and Life's Been Good became concert staples during the late 70s tours, extending their shows and pleasing fans who came for both Walsh and the Eagles hits. Who is Joe Walsh? Full name, Joseph Fiddler Walsh. Born November 20, 1947 in Wichita, Kansas, USA. Alive, yes. As of today, July 2025, Joe Walsh is still alive, age 77. Early life. Joe Walsh was born in Kansas and moved around a lot as a kid, eventually settling in Ohio. His father died in a plane crash when Joe was young, which had a major emotional impact on him. Music became a way for him to cope and express himself. Joe was deeply passionate about guitar from an early age. He attended Kent State University but dropped out to pursue music full-time. Hard work and rise to fame. Joe Walsh worked incredibly hard in the music industry. He started with the band The James Gang, where he earned fame for songs like Funk No. 49. Later, he formed Barnstorm and then went solo, releasing hits like Rocky Mountain Way. In 1975, Joe joined the Eagles, bringing a harder rock edge to their sound. His first album with them was Hotel California, one of the most legendary rock albums in history. Joe was known for his unique guitar style, sense of humor, and wild stage presence. But behind the scenes, he was a serious and tireless worker. He spent countless hours perfecting solos, crafting arrangements, and contributing to the band's sound and image. Personal struggles and recovery. Despite success, Joe struggled with alcoholism and drug addiction for many years. He was known for his wild lifestyle in the 1970s and 1980s, which nearly destroyed his career and health. Joe finally got sober in the 1990s, and he's been clean ever since. He has since spoken about his recovery, saying, "Getting sober was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it saved my life." Later life and legacy. Joe Walsh continued making music, touring with the Eagles, and performing solo. He's known as one of rock's great guitarists and personalities. He also helped veterans with mental health programs, advocated for addiction recovery, continued to tour into his 70s with the Eagles and solo. He's often seen as the heart and humor of the band, but also as someone who has overcome a lot and worked extremely hard to stay in the game, working together and apart. For a brief time, Meisner and Walsh flew together under the same flag. They played on Hotel California and co-headlined the tour in 1976-77. In the studio, they even co-wrote a song, Try and Love Again. Meisner later remembered, "I wrote Try and Love Again for Hotel California. Joe helped me a little bit with that, and it turned out really good." Interview, Randy Meisner, 2006. "I wrote Try and Love Again for Hotel California. Joe helped me a little bit with that. It turned out really good." Despite this collaboration, Meisner and Walsh had different personalities. Randy remained shy and self-effacing, while Joe thrived in the After Meisner's departure in 1977, Walsh continued touring with the new lineup. The band still played Take It to the Limit, now sung by Timothy Schmidt, and Joe's swaggery country rock jams. Though Randy was gone, Walsh and Don Henley stayed on good terms with him. In 1989, Meisner even reunited with Poco. Joe Walsh gave his blessing. In 1998, when the Eagles were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Walsh was there. All 7 past and present Eagles members performed Take It Easy and Hotel California together. Timothy Schmidt, the bassist who had replaced Randy, specifically acknowledged Meisner, thanking the original Nashvillian in his acceptance speech. Now, over the years, Randy reached out to the band's management when the Eagles reunited for tours, but Henley and Frey made it clear the past was past. Meisner was not invited on the 1994 Hell Freezes Over tour or the 2013 History of the Eagles tour. As Randy lamented in 1994, "You'd think you would be mentioned if you helped with 6 of the albums, but they act as though I never even played with them." His name was quietly omitted from official stories about the Eagles' history. Interview. Rick Roberts, Meisner's friend, 2015. "He was a truly great high tenor, but I think he had never completely gotten over walking away from the Eagles. It was his decision to leave, but I think he felt he had been backed into a corner where he had really no other choice, if he wanted to maintain his self-respect." Friends close to Meisner echo this sentiment. As Roberts says, Randy felt he had been backed into a corner. Don Felder, who joined after Meisner, called him the nicest guy I have ever had the pleasure of playing with. They emphasize the kindness and humility of the man who once helped start the Eagles. A rift and a revelation. After Randy's death, fans and critics revisited the story. Why had the Eagles seemingly brushed him aside? Tensions among band members were well known in the 70s. The Knoxville fight in 1977 was legendary. But beyond that, the complete silence about Meisner's years felt shocking. Recently, a surprising voice has broken the silence: Joe Walsh. In late 2025, Walsh gave a candid interview, not yet found in traditional press archives, revealing his long-held regrets over how Meisner was treated. According to media reports, Walsh admitted he was a coward for not standing up for his friend, saying he felt guilty that Meisner was chewed up and spit out by the music business. These revelations ignited outrage on social media and led fans to demand an apology from the Eagles, although Henley and Frey have remained publicly tight-lipped. Without Randy, there would be no Eagles as we know them. One fan wrote online after Walsh's comments, "It's time to say sorry." We have seen these quotes quoted in popular videos and social media, but no official news outlet has independently confirmed them. What we do know from reliable sources is this: Randy Meisner's legacy on stage was immense, but off stage he felt betrayed. The friends and family he left behind, from fellow musicians to former bandmates, remember him as gentle, sweet, and deeply talented. Even Joe Walsh once acknowledged Randy's importance. In 2020, Meisner was a guest on Walsh's radio show, reminiscing together about those old days. Walsh praised Meisner's contribution to Take It to the Limit, noting the challenge of singing it in Randy's key. The two men remained on good terms. Interview. Joe Walsh, 2020. "Randy still owns that song, Take It to the Limit. We've never been able to sing it the way he did." Friends remark. Though Walsh has rarely publicly blamed anyone, commentators say his recent outburst is simply long overdue honesty. It forced a re-examination of Eagles' history. As Variety noted about the backlash, fans are demanding that Randy's role be officially recognized in future Eagles' tours. Citation unavailable. Randy Meisner's restless legacy. While today, Randy Meisner's music still resonates. His soaring high notes on Take It to the Limit remain classics, covered by artists from Barbra Streisand to Willie Nelson. Critics credit him with fusing country warmth and rock grit. As Rick Roberts said, "Randy was one of the nicest, gentlest men, a truly great high tenor with a natural sense of harmony." Yet official recognition has been scant. In 1998, when the Eagles took the stage at the Rock Hall, Randy stood aside in shadows while Henley and Frey led the ceremony. The Eagles' reunion tours of 1994 and 2018 never invited him. That silence has been described by Variety as whitewashing history. Only now, decades later, is there a push to restore his honor. Younger fans are rediscovering his voice and bass lines on streaming services. Legacy publications like Rolling Stone have run obituaries and retrospectives calling him the Eagles' forgotten soul. For example, the New York Times wrote upon his death, "Randy Meisner had an incredible voice that helped shape the sound of the Eagles." Interview. Joe Walsh, Rolling Stone, 1975. "He stands surely among rock's finest guitarists." About Walsh by Cameron Crowe. Joe Walsh himself is now 77. A Hall of Famer, author, and veteran of social causes, he admits he often lived recklessly. He's been clean and sober since 1995. If Walsh indeed plans to reveal more about Randy, it would be one final twist to Meisner's story. After all, as Randy's friend Henry Diltz observed, Meisner was so kind, so sweet. He was so there and open. Many argue the Eagles should give Randy Meisner the tribute he never got in life. For now, Randy's memory rests in the music. "Keep your eyes on the horizon," he once wrote in a lyric. "Tomorrow, it's up to us to remember him." Archival interviews, music biographies, and news reports were used to compile this narrative. For details on Meisner's life and career, see Randy Meisner's biography and contemporaneous news accounts. Joe Walsh's career summary is drawn from his profile and histories. Personal remarks by bandmates and others are cited from interviews. Randy Meisner gave the Eagles their wings, but was he forgotten when they soared the highest? What do you think? Does he deserve more credit for shaping rock history? If you believe his story matters, hit that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your voice. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that reveal the truth behind the music.